I know that I'm not the only one that this has happened to. I can't be. I'm sure at least some of you know what I'm talking about. That moment that they hit, and you realize that something is off. The moment that you realize it's not just a bad trip. What you took has gone bad. Like expired antibiotics or Tylenol. For most of my adult life, I did more than smoke weed, with the occasional evening where I could find some sort of hallucinogen. Acid was my preference, but I wouldn't shy away from some mushrooms if they were easier to find. 3 months ago, I felt the urge to have another spiritually lifted night, as I tend to call it anyway. So I called up the guy that I usually talk to when acquiring my Vision Quest materials, and he told me something strange. Hey Bert, I don't work tomorrow, so I thought of making my night a little special. Do you have anything available? Bert's voice traveled through the phone in an unusually somber tone. Yeah, I got something for you, but... But what? Well, some people have been hitting me up saying there's, something weird about the batch. Oh yeah? Weird how? They don't say. But they don't seem to like it from how they're acting. So I don't know. Maybe it's a strong batch and they just don't like the intensity. Like I said, it's just a guess though. I sat there on the phone, letting an awkward silence hang in the air for a few minutes as I thought it over. I didn't work the next day, and it had been a few months since I had anything more than some good bud. Bert was really my only option when it came to drugs anyway. See, when you're younger, it's a lot easier to find people with the drugs that you're looking for. However, as you get older, everyone just assumes that you're a cop, and nobody will sell you anything. Bert cleared his throat on the other end of the line, pulling me out of his head and hinting at me to continue the conversation. Sorry, yeah. I'll take my usual 3. I'll head out and I'll make my way over to pick them up from you in just about a minute. Okay. I just realized that I did warn you about this batch. Yeah, I got it. Don't worry. Warning received. Hands are clear. And with that final statement, I hung up and I began to gather my things to head out to my car. Something about the situation, or maybe it was something that Bert had said about the batch, had burrowed its way into the back of my mind. The little mind leech of an uncomfortable feeling wouldn't let go and made the drive over to Bert's house fill with suspicion. And on the other hand, this wasn't the first time that I had accepted acid that he said others had thought were too strong. Those times had proved to be just what I was looking for to propel me into the night of speaking with other dimensional beings and flying amongst the stars with a heavy trip. Yet, on the other hand, that little brain slug of doubt in the back of my mind wouldn't allow my nerves to settle. When I finally reached Bert's house, my excitement for a good night had managed to overcome the strange feeling I received from our conversation. Bert and I had been good friends for years and years at this point. The two of us had gone to the same high school and remained relatively close after graduation. He only sold weed back in high school, but had since grown his cloak and dagger business into providing various hallucinogens. He typically had other shrooms or acid, or sometimes both. Occasionally, he would have ecstasy, but that was rare, and I often had no interest in that. He once had peyote. It was only that one time though, but damn, that was a really intense endeavor. And as I walked into his house, he sat at the table, separating out little paper tabs. His performing this task was in no way odd to me. I had seen him do it hundreds of times. The part that I found unusual about this particular instance was that he was wearing gloves. Bert never wore gloves for this, often microdosing himself as he separated out hits. So in a way, it was a little added bonus for him beside the money. Hey, what's with the gloves, dude? I asked, not able to rein in my curiosity. It's, like a precaution. I told you, man. There's something strange about this sheet. I mean, just look at it. I looked at the small square of paper with a grid of perforations, creating a 10 by 10 sheet of 100 total hits. I immediately knew what he was talking about. Instead of a transparent liquid dripped over a clean white sheet of blotter paper, it was orange. I don't mean there was a slight yellowing as if the mixture was potent or anything. I mean that it was nearly neon orange and somewhat streaked. Whoa, dude. Is that normal? Did you get this from a different guy or something? No, I got it from the same guy, but... I sat staring at him for what felt like an eternity, just waiting for him to finish his sentence. And when it never came, I tried to coax the rest of what he was saying out of him. But what? Bro, you can't just stop mid-sentence like that and leave me hanging. He seemed to snap out of his impromptu trance, gathered 3 little tabs, and held them out to me before speaking. But he was just acting strange when I picked this up from him. Oh yeah? I said as I held out my hand, letting him drop the 3 hits into my palm. Strange how? I don't really know how to describe it. It was like he had a secret, or maybe just a little over-paranoid. Come to think of it, his pupils seemed dilated, so he may have been tripping when I got them. Now that I think about that possibility, it doesn't seem so strange. Well, shit, man, if he was tripping, then of course he's going to be acting a little strange. I mean, I don't think that I would read too much into it. And with that, I paid him and I began to walk out the door to my car. When I reached the door, I realized that the 3 hits were still just sitting in my palm, and I had no bag or container to place them in for the trip home. I stood at the doorway, contemplating how to solve this seemingly minuscule problem. Apparently, I had stood staring back and forth from my hand to the doorknob for much longer than I realized, and Bert called out to me. Hey Jim, you cool, man? You've been standing there trying to figure out my door for like 5 minutes now. You just turn the handle and you walk through it. It's not that complicated. A strange tingling wave started from my skull and flowed through the rest of my body twice before I could make my mouth respond. Yeah, I'm good, I said as I glanced back at him and then to the tabs in my hand. I smiled to myself as I shook off the last remnants of the strange tingling sensation and tossed all 3 of the little paper tabs into my mouth, then settling them between my tongue to let the acid soak into the veins. I turned the handle and opened the door. I gave Bird a quick goodbye as I stepped through, and I saw the utterly shocked look on his face as I closed the door behind me. No doubt his reaction from seeing me take all 3 hits at once before I even got home. I knew that acid typically takes about 20 minutes to kick in, and my drive home was only 10 minutes, so I would still be good for about 10 minutes or so and get home and settle in for the wild night that I was about to have. However, I began to get scared on the way home as I began to feel my breathing pattern change and more waves of shivers and tingles washed over my body. Holy shit, this must be some good stuff, I thought to myself as I parked my car and I walked up to the front door. And suddenly I could no longer feel the tabs under my tongue, and as I reached for the door handle, I saw them sitting in the palm of my hand. I froze and I stared, focusing on the 3 tiny squares of paper resting gently in my palm. What the fuck? I said as my heart began to race. I brought my hand to my mouth to put the tabs under my tongue, but just as I moved, they disappeared, and I could once again feel them soaking into my saliva. Another chill ran up my spine, and I began to shake back and forth like a dog trying to dry its fur. I stopped suddenly, realizing that I was performing this strange dance, still standing out in the open on my front steps. Get inside. Get inside. Get inside. A strange whisper echoed just behind my right ear, and I spun around to see who had made it. The view before me was blurred, and the street began to form waves like it was made out of liquid. The cars passing melted into little more than colorful blobs, rolling for a few feet and then exploding into various genetic vehicle shapes. I closed my eyes and I rubbed my eyelids, trying to rest my vision. This shouldn't have hit so soon. Something feels wrong. Something's wrong. It's wrong. Something is wrong. Another echo whispered suddenly behind my left ear, causing me to spin around again. I became genuinely terrified as the thought that I had bitten off more than I could chew with this. My heart raced and I quickly opened the front door and burst through into my kitchen. I stumbled to the floor and kicked the door shut behind me. "Hey Jim, you cool, man? You've been standing there trying to figure out my door for like 5 minutes now. You just turn the handle and you walk through it. It's not that complicated." "Yeah, I'm fine. Wait, what? How did you get..." My voice trailed off as my kitchen came back into view. I shook my head as another chill surged through my body. "This shirt is getting too hot," I said as I began to pull it over my head. "This is going bad quickly. I need something to calm me down." My heart pounded within the prison of my ribcage, and I nearly began to cry with fear as I realized this was going to be more than just a bad trip.
"This is going to be a bad trip."
The voice came from my Alexa speaker on the wall, but it sounded like it was slowed down and way too deep. I gripped at my chest, trying to slow my heart, and I felt my shirt. "This shirt is getting too hot," I said as I began to take it off. I stopped halfway through as the thought of already doing this flashed through my mind.
This is going to be a bad trip.
The warped robotic voice of the Alexa came through the speaker again. "Shut up! How would you know?" I yelled out. And as soon as the words left my mouth, the room fell deathly silent. Another chill screamed through my body as I reached up and grasped the counter. And then, finally pulling myself up to my feet. I needed something to calm me. I thought again. "Alexa, play calm music." That should help. Now I need to get some water or something.
"I'm sorry, I didn't understand that, you little bitch. Please try again."
Wait. Did she just say that? I tried to remember as I stumbled over to the sink. I decided that I couldn't waste time getting a glass and turned the faucet on to drink from directly. The water blasted me in the face as if it was a fire hose set to maximum pressure, and I felt myself nearly drown. Stumbling back onto the floor, I turned to ask Kevin what was happening. "How should I know? I'm only 14, remember?" "Wait. Kevin, how are you here? You died when we were kids. I was there when you got hit by that drunk driver." Kevin just laughed. But it didn't sound right. It sounded guttural and glitchy. I watched as my childhood best friend flickered between normality and entirely brutalized, just as he had looked after being hit by the speeding vehicle. "You know, you could have saved me. No, it wasn't my fault. It was..." I was interrupted by the speaker again.
"I don't think I can help you with that, you pathetic junkie."
"Damn it, shut up, Alexa!" I screamed as another jolt of tingles surged through my body. "Alexa, play calming music, you stupid bitch!" "You should have saved me, Jimmy." His voice had changed again to little more than an echoed whisper, oscillating back and forth in my mind. "No, I couldn't have, Kevin. You weren't really here. You died 15 years ago." A blast of death metal at maximum volume filled the room from the speaker. I quickly covered my ears as the music growled and screamed. "What the fuck is happening? Alexa, stop!" And suddenly the room fell deathly silent, and I decided to make my way to the couch in the living room to lay down and relax. Maybe I could turn on some music visuals on the television to try and redirect this trip. I called out for Alexa to turn on the TV as I crawled my way into the room, and instantly a pain crashed into my stomach, and I puked all over the floor. I couldn't help but scream in terror as I knew that vomiting the tablets back up would cause them to reactivate, so to speak, which would intensify my already out-of-control vision quest. "Hey, Jim, you cool, man? You've been standing there trying to figure out my door for like 5 minutes now. You just turn the handle. Yes, I know, Bert. I can make..." I stopped realizing I was still in Bert's house. Wait, No, I wasn't. Or was I? My couch? That's right. Sir, who are you talking to? I was talking to... Wait, who are you? How did you get in my house? This is my house, right? And as I looked at the person, their face melted down to the bone and reformed into my mother's. A look of knowing disappointment appeared on her face. Just as I began to speak, the entire person liquefied, pouring onto the floor, and then reformed into my dog from when I was a child and burst into flames.
Is it hot enough in here for you?
A bellowing voice said, bouncing back and forth between my ears. And somehow I knew it was coming from my long-dead dog as it continued to burn in the heat of the room. Yes, the shirt is getting too hot. I need to take it off, I responded. The dog blew away as mere ashes. Then, as the last ash floated off into the wind, I heard 3 loud, deep barks. The same barks I remembered from my dog. I scooted myself over and I leaned up against the tree so I could look out over the field. Wait. No, there can't be a tree. I was in my living room. Right?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Please try again.
Alexa's voice rang out, but sounded as though someone kept changing the record's speed as she spoke. Hey, Jim. You cool, man?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Please try again.
Hey, Jim. You alright? Holy shit. I have to get this under control. What if I go take a shower? That usually calms me down. The thoughts barely formed as they pushed through my screaming and crowded brain. Another shock and the waves of chills pulsed through my body as I stumbled my way to the bathroom. I made the mistake of looking into the mirror above the sink, and I began to scream with terror as I watched the skin over my face begin to melt and drip into the sink, only for the vision to stutter and start over with my skin still intact. I reeled back, falling into the bathtub that was already filled for some reason with cold water.
I'm calling the cops, you pathetic junkie.
I heard the glitchy robotic voice of Alexa say, Hey Jim, you cool, man? Hey Jim, you cool, man? You've been standing there trying to figure out my door for like 5 minutes now. You just turn the handle and you walk through it. It's not that complicated.
Sir, you can't be in there. Sir, you...
said my brother as if he were speaking in slow motion. Wait, what are you doing here? I said just before the water splashed over my face. I fell deeper into the bathtub than I ever should have. I fell impossibly deep, sinking down as if there were no bottom. I screamed, but no bubbles formed in front of my face. Instead, colorful and intricate ballooned animals were expelled from my throat. I tried to stand and effortlessly rose to my feet. Cool water splashed on my face. Another shock and chills flooded my body, and the world around me suddenly went black. And I woke to a white room, still breathing and warping around me. My head swimming, and I looked around realizing that I was strapped down to a bed, surrounded by sterile white and various strange machines. My mind began to race with confusion and fear. First, a giant weasel burst through the door, morphed into a horse, and finally into a human-shaped pile of worms wearing a police uniform. Why am I here? What are you going to do to me? I called out with a tremble in my voice. Son? The pile of cop worms began to speak out in English. I'm not going to ask you what drugs you've taken because at this point it doesn't matter. Do you have any idea what happened over the past 24 hours? The room took a deep breath and expanded out to nearly twice its original size, then shrank back down to the point I thought it would crush both the worm cop that had changed into a lizard wearing a uniform and me. Nothing. I went home for a normal night, and I fell asleep in the shower. So how did I end up here? I struggled through my words to make my voice sound calm and normal. I knew I should have stayed away from the acid after seeing that it looked so unusual. It's way past time, It should have worn off. What if it messed me up and never goes away? What if I'm like this forever? Just doomed to perpetually trip for the rest of my life, never being able to truly function again? My horrified train of thought was interrupted by Officer Lizard speaking again. You were found in a public fountain drowned. I had to shock you multiple times to get your heart started. Then you kept screaming about a dead dog and telling someone named Alexa to shut the fuck up. Lizard Cop paused for a second, staring at me, apparently waiting for his words to sink into my intoxicated mind. Now, do you want to try to tell me what happened? Because that clearly was no normal night at home.
Hey Jim, you cool man? You've been standing there trying to figure out my door for like 5 minutes now. You just turn the handle and you walk through it. It's not that complicated.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand that. Instead of answering, as the voices echoed in my head, I turned my head and I closed my eyes. I couldn't still discern reality from the constantly fluctuating world in this never-ending trip. I can't leave this room. They won't let me. They don't trust me. But honestly, ever since I took those 3 little tabs, neither do I.